Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay, here to talk a little bit about the Olympics. The 2024 Olympics held in Paris, France. Let's talk about it. And this is a um, historic edition of the Olympics because it's the first time that a new sport has been added in many years. And that new sport is breakdancing. And Snoop Dogg was a torchbearer in this Olympics, and he was also like a host of many events. So basically, this is the Olympics way of celebrating hip hop culture. And it did not go well. It did not go well. Hey, Lisa, what's going on? It did not go well, in my opinion. Congratulations to the men. I'm just going to talk first about the breakdancing. This is the first thing I'm going to speak about. First topic at hand, breakdancing. I feel like it did not go well, for... Okay, Lisa's saying no. Lisa, okay. What would you like to touch on first in... Okay, Snoop. Let's talk about Snoop. He was involved with a lot of events. He was a torchbearer. He did a lot of comedy. And I feel like we have seen the evolution of Snoop Dogg in our popular culture, in our cultural zeitgeist. Because he's gone from... I said on a live stream yesterday, on a live stream I was on talking about this very topic. I feel like Snoop Dogg has gone from a guy who was basically public enemy number one in a lot of people's minds, especially when he was on trial for that murder case in 1993. He was a public menace. Gangster rap was considered to be the second coming of the Antichrist. It was like the thing that most parents hated, most people, older people hated, considered it to be a big contributor to the fall of Western civilization. And then now all of a sudden, the face of that very movement is now at the Olympics with Martha Stewart, riding ponies, having the ponies dance, carrying the torch for the Olympics. Things have really changed. And in a way, Snoop Dogg is the most mainstream rapper. A lot of people will disagree with me. I don't know. Lisa has her opinion. I feel like he is the most successful ex-rapper ever. You know what I mean? Because no other rapper penetrates the American consciousness and is all over the world. A symbol of happiness, joy, and contentment. Right. Lisa saying he served as an official torchbearer for the 200-mile race at the Olympics. At the Olympic trials, he got swimming lessons from Michael Phelps and performed and confronted his fear of horses. Yes. So to see the evolution of Snoop Dogg, because I was there, man. I started getting into rap. I spoke about it several times before. I started getting into rap through West Coast rap. Even though I'm from New York, in the beginning stages, when I started to listen to rap, West Coast rap appealed to me more. Tupac, Snoop, Dr. Dre. The first album I ever bought, not bought, but listened to, a friend loaned to me, was Dr. Dre's The Chronic, like 2 years after it was already out. And then from there, Doggy Style. And then from there, All Eyes on Me. And then from there, NWA, an old copy of NWA. So even though I'm from New York, I didn't really get into Biggie, Bad Boy, any of the Nas, any of the New York stuff, because it was like at that time, New York hip hop was not. It was like underground shit, and it was hard to for me to get into and to vibe to. So Snoop was like one of my first favorite rappers as a kid. You know what I mean? I felt New York rap was too serious, basically when I was growing up. Before I got into Biggie, Biggie was like the first New York rapper that I really got into because, like I said, I used to consider New York rap to be too serious. You know what I mean? You had a lot of Wu Tang stuff, you had a lot of Brand Nubian stuff, which I grew to love later, a lot of 5% of rap, and I wasn't really into that. I didn't really understand it. It kind of went over my head as a like an 11 or 12-year-old. But I did watch a lot of movies like Boys in the Hood, South Central, um, Menace to Society, and that was, of course, that was West Coast style, a different vibe. So I got more into that when I first started listening to hip hop. So Snoop was like my style, and I actually purchased that album, Doggy Style, and played it. And of course, as I talked about several times before in the channel, my grandmother was an evangelical Christian. So me playing It Ain't No Fun If the Homies Can't Have None got me in trouble. You know what I mean? So I can speak from personal experience that Snoop Dogg's music was hated and despised by grown ups at the time. You know what I mean? But I loved it, man. I loved it. And, uh, so were it not for that whole death row group, what I mean, of Snoop, Dr. Dre, Tupac, and Daz Dillinger and Nate Dogg and Warren G, I'd have never got into rap because New York rap just didn't grab me. And another thing I always liked about West Coast, Lisa says he seemed happy at the Olympics. Another thing I always liked about West Coast rap that was cooler was the samples. A lot of the samples from West Coast rap were more R&B samples, more funk samples, more smooth samples. New York rap at the time didn't have any melodies. You know what I mean? It was real rough. It was that boom bap style. And I know, New York hip hop heads are gonna say, well, I mean that's our style. Mobb Deep, Wu Tang, all that shit. But Nas, but again, that was too rough for me. That was too complicated for me. That was too boring, in a sense, for me. You know what I mean? So that stuff that just didn't grab me. Not at 11, 12 years old. you know, but Snoop and Dre and them, their style did gravitate towards that because it was kind of the same music that my grandmother, would play on Saturday nights. Even though she was staunch Christian, she would play regular music, sometimes, and she would play, R&B from the 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and that's basically what they sampled. So I got more into that. And like I said, through the movies, through Blood In, Blood Out, Boys in the Hood, South Central, all that kind of stuff, the real gangster movies, So I was there. I witnessed Snoop being the public enemy number one, and to see where he's gone, to see his evolution, from that character, because that's what that was. That was that old Snoop. Lisa says he got paid $9 million. That old Snoop, that was a character. You know what I'm saying? Pimps up, hoes down. Don't love these hoes. All that stuff he used to talk about. This man has been in real life. He's been married to his wife since 1997. You know what I mean? So maybe he was like that in his old life, but the point is, he's no longer like that. He's matured. He's different. And he's a rapper that's not afraid to show a vulnerable side to him. You know what I mean? Like a funny side. A lot of rappers, especially when I was coming up as a kid getting into hip hop, they were afraid to smile. They never smiled in pictures and they never smiled in photos. They always wanted to appear tough and gangster. And think about it this way, Lise. Here's a guy who was on a song with Tupac called America's Most Wanted. And now he's carrying the Olympic torch for the United States. What an evolution. It kind of reminds me, in a way, of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali at one time really was also in the 60s hated, despised, and cursed out by most of the American people after he became a militant, joined the Nation of Islam and refused to serve in the Vietnam War. And then by 1996, he was also an Olympic torchbearer. You know what I mean? So the point is, the people that you villainize today will be the heroes of tomorrow, and some of the people that you lionize and you consider the heroes of today will probably be the villains of tomorrow. Look at Hulk Hogan. Look at Bill Cosby. Look at Diddy. Diddy, between the two of them, because I remember when Snoop was the first to extend the olive branch after the East Coast, West Coast rap wars of the 90s, and Diddy was considered the safe one. Diddy was considered the wholesome one. And Diddy was considered, the media darling of the rap world, and Snoop wasn't. You know what I mean? So, wow, look how things have changed. So, okay, segueing from that to another form of hip hop, another type of hip hop that is a little bit older, because hip hop, the gymnastics drama. Okay, well, at least we could talk about the gymnastics drama. I was going to talk about breakdancing, but we could talk about the gymnastics drama. So segue the Snoop thing into the breakdancing thing. Yeah, Jordan Child. I think her name is Jordan Childs. She got stripped of her medal, apparently over a scoring issue. The Romanian team said that they overscored her. So the medal that she got, she was stripped of, which is really fucked up. You know what I mean? I didn't know they could do that. You know what I mean? But hey, the Olympics have never been, fair, especially to black performers. We could go into how, the 1936 Olympics. Let's just go there, for example. And how Jesse Owens, who was running for the American team at that time, this was in Nazi Germany. Lisa says they took it away after a week after she won the medal. In Nazi Germany, Jesse Owens got more love from the Germans, that were considered to be racist and white supremacists than Adolf Hitler than he got from FDR. FDR was the one who actually didn't call him, and he didn't get any support when it came to the United States. But he got support from Adolf Hitler. So I mean, that's weird. You know what I mean? But it just goes to show you how sometimes the Olympic committee can be biased towards certain athletes. I don't know, athletes, for example. But a week later, Lisa, wow. I mean, it took them that long to do, and also this girl, I forgot her name, but I saw this. She was a Caucasian girl, and she was a former member of the U.S. gymnastics team. and she basically was saying that the U.S. gymnastic team, women's gymnastic team lacks work ethic, and it's like all these girls, Simone Biles included, all these girls, are excellent performers, and you got to wonder if it's sour grapes on this one girl's part. You know what I mean? That is saying that they lack focus, but where? You know what I mean? That they're lazy or whatever, or trying to imply that they're lazy. Where? I mean, these girls, they're killing it out there. Where do you see laziness in this? You know what I mean? Is it just because you're not on the team anymore? They kicked you out or whatever? Oh, Lisa is on top of it. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, I knew Lisa was going to shine in this topic because Lisa is an Olympics expert. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it was Lisa's idea. This was Lisa's, topic that I knew that she was specialized in because she, knows a lot about this stuff. Me, I was just going to come at it from the hip hop standpoint of talking about Snoop and talking about breakdancing. But Lisa was like, to include everybody. So the girl's name is Michaela Skinner. Yeah, a hater. I'm a pure hater. Like, chick, where are you seeing that these girls are lazy? Where are you seeing that they're not working? If this is lazy to you, what is hard working to you? Like they're winning. It's not because uh they are lazy, because they're better than like gymnastics, like tennis, like golf, and like pretty much every other sport that's not basketball. you know, and even basketball, when it was first invented, is a predominantly white sport, but these other sports were predominantly white sports for longer, right? So now the face of gymnastics is a black woman. You know what I mean? Like, if you ask anybody, right, from nowadays, and I always say this, I always use this example. If you ask anybody, and I always say this, ask anybody, who is the person that they associate in their minds with gymnastics? You know what I mean? And it's probably going to be Simone Biles, right? Or somebody else from the women's gymnastics team that is majority women of color. It's not going to be this girl, Michaela Skinner, or it's going to be Mary Lou Retton, or anybody from back in the day that was a gymnastic star. It's going to be Simone Biles, because Simone Biles is, to steal a phrase from Triple H, she's that damn good. You know what I mean? She is tremendous. You know what I mean? And she, a black woman, has become the face of gymnastics. And a lot of people are racist, and they just can't deal with it. You know what I mean? They can't deal with the fact that Lisa said she was on the gymnastics team in 2020. Okay, yeah. But 2020 was something completely different. 2020 was the COVID era. You know what I mean? They were there at the Olympics, but they weren't doing it as big as they are now, right? Now it's even bigger. Now it's an even bigger stage. She's not on there. You know what I mean? So, again, it's sour grapes when it comes to this, I feel. You know, in my opinion. But there's no I in team, folks. And, even if my thing would be, even if I'm not there, these are my girls. You know what I mean? We was on the team together. We struggled together. We sweated together. It's not an individualistic sport. It's not boxing. It's not, it's not an individual sport. We shine and we shine together, but she doesn't feel that way. You know what I mean? And, as we saw with women's basketball this past year, racial politics always plays a role when it comes to sports, because This is an arena that sports is definitely an arena that, despite all their bullshit rhetoric, white supremacists can't latch on to, and say that they're better at. They can't manipulate the data because it is what it is. The woman who wins wins. The man who wins wins. Sports is the purest form of finding out who's better at what thing. You know what I mean? So they can't do like they do with IQ tests. They can't do like they do with crime statistics and manipulate them. They can't do that with sports. You know what I mean? And because they can't manipulate it and they can't do that with sports, they hate on it. Because that's the last option that they can do. First they could lie and obfuscate, and then when they can't lie and obfuscate, they just outright hate. You know what I mean, after that. You know. So, and certain sports they gatekept. Gatekept certain sports, and gymnastics was one of them. Particularly the sports that to get into is very hard. That they, um, you know, you had to be of a higher socioeconomic status to get into, like gymnastics, tennis, hockey, and even baseball in some cases. Lisa says, in regards to Jordan Childs, people saying that the country that wants the medal is just mad that on the podium it's all black female podium because the because the one who won the gold medal was a black Brazilian woman. Well, yeah, but Romania, the country that's disputing it, is a white country. So, I mean, I don't doubt that they feel slighted. You know what I mean? And Eastern Europe, before, yeah, Lisa says, yeah, it would have been Brazil, which was the black lady from Brazil into America, and two Americans who were black. Yeah, so basically all black dominated. Again, you know, when we succeed as people of color, we succeed in other arenas, like in movies, in media representation. White supremacists come and say, well, oh, you only got there because affirmative action, or the new word, like they're saying with Kamala Harris, uh, DEI, right? But they can't accuse you of DEI when it comes to sports because you're either good or you ain't good. You either can do it well or you can't do it well. You know what I mean? You're either athletic or you ain't. You know what I mean? There's no DI. There's no putting, unless it's professional wrestling, which isn't a real sport anyway. But there's no putting a person in that position or nepotism in as far as the performance, like nepotism, like with LeBron James's son, right? But he just put him there. If LeBron James's son doesn't deliver, then LeBron James's son is out of the NBA, right? And same thing with the Olympics. If you don't do well, regardless of what color you are, you ain't gonna get the medal. You ain't gonna win. You know what I mean? So it's it can't be manipulated. And when a person succeeds, you can't accuse the person you can't pull a Donald Trump. You can't accuse the person of cheating. You can with steroids, but you have to have proof. You have to have evidence. But you can't accuse the person of DEI or affirmative action or wokeness. They either win or they don't. What I mean? It just is what it is. So of course white supremacists get mad when it comes to sports because there's no way they could lie and say we cheated to get there or we used affirmative action or tokenism or wokeness to get there. We did it because we're just good. What I mean, at that sport. What I mean? It is what it is. You know So the next thing they'll do is say, well, like, and I've seen this from so many, not that I know a lot of white supremacists, but I mean, just conservatives online, conservative bloggers, they'll say, oh, well, I'm just not watching the Olympics, you know what I mean? Oh, this girl cheated, or she deserves to get her medal taken away because they put extra points on her. What about Romania? So all of a sudden now, what's going to end up happening, and I guarantee this is going to happen, Lisa, is that a lot of American conservatives are suddenly going to become fans of Romanian women's gymnastics, even though they don't know where Romania is and they don't watch women's gymnastics. you know, you know, but this will be the next cause that they'll take on. You'll have Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, all these other conservatives start to say, oh, well, this is already happening. I know. See, when your boy Jay Reaction says that, I know conservatives, your boy knows conservatives, and that train is never late. I could predict everything they're going to say and when they're going to say it, how they're going to vote, how they're going to act, what videos they're going to. Okay. Lisa's seen them. I didn't see them, Lisa, because I haven't paid attention, but I just know them. I've been surrounded by them forever, here online, and sometimes, in person. That's why I'm able to rebut them, and argue against them all the time because I know them. You know what I'm saying? I know them very well. I know the things that they say and the arguments they make and the actions they take. Motherfuckers don't even know where Romania even is on the map. Wouldn't be able to tell you anything about Romania. But they don't watch women's gymnastics. If it was any other argument, they would say that women don't belong in sports at all, some of them. But they love Romania now. They're Romanian patriots now because the Romanian girl was cheated out of the gold medal. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, really? Like, I wouldn't be surprised that your boy Donald Trump hears about this, through online, and he comes out and says, when I'm the president, Romania will get a fair shake. I will make sure that America's team doesn't cheat. I will make American sports great again. He's probably going to say that. You know what I mean? Lisa says, she's seen comments from Americans. Okay. We know that's happening. So that is another thing that is another eye roll for the sensitive snowflakes on the right wing of the political aisle. Something that has nothing. Fans of Jordan are saying that she shouldn't give it back, and they got to come to the U.S. to get it. Yeah, you want it back? Pry it from my cold, dead hands, bitch. This is my phone, but I'm pretending that it's a gold medal. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, really, I won this shit fair and square. Like we used to say when we were kids, right? And we happen to beat somebody that, like, I'll say video games because I'm very unathletic. I never played sports in my whole life. Even wheelchair sports. never done that. You know what I mean? But I'll say video games. Remember when we played video games and we beat somebody fair and square, and then they would say, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, have a do-over, right? Give me another chance. No do-overs. No do-overs. I won. I won. You know, no do-overs. I won." Because that's their favorite thing. You know, sore losers. Oh, we're having a do-over. No do-over. I won. Fair and square. Right? That's the way Jordan Childs is saying. I won. Fuck it. Because, like I said, Trump will say he'll. I know what Trump will do. Trump will connect it to the 2020 elections. At least he will say, just like when I was running against Joe Biden in 2020, the Romanian gymnast was cheated out of her medal. He'll probably get on one of and when I'm president, this will not happen. America will win gymnastics competitions fair and square. This is all due to Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe. And Kamala. We're behind this travesty at the Olympics. And then JD Vance will say, well, when I used to play sports, after I got up from the couch after making love to it, making sweet, sweet love to it, I too was cheated out of sports by, African American kids in my area. Even though as a kid I was severely obese and I never played sports and all I did was sit on the couch and occasionally make love to it, still I was cheated too, and I sympathize with the Romanian government. Weird, as Tim Waltz called them, because they are weird. And it's not just Trump and JD Vance, it's the entire conservative Republican Party, because they pick these stupid hills to die on, like with the boxer situation. This is tight. I know Lisa didn't really want me to talk about this, and we kind of touched on it already. But there was a boxer that had a medical condition, right? And she was in a boxing competition, a women's boxing competition with an Italian boxer. And because of her medical condition that she had an increased level of testosterone. And when she hit this woman, the Italian boxer, the Italian boxer gave up. And then, right, at the Olympics, yeah. The Italian boxer gave up, and she said, she never been hit that hard, right? And it was just a jab. So the next day, conservatives get on their soapbox once again, proclaiming, I think her name was like Imani Khalif or whatever, right? She was an Algerian woman. They get on their soapbox proclaiming that that the woman was trans. The woman, Imani Khalif. I was right, Lise. Thanks. They go, oh, the woman was trans, right? She was trans. How dare they? How dare the Olympics let a biological man, a trans woman that they call a biological man, disrespectfully, because they're transphobic, right? How dare they let a trans a trans person box against a woman, right? And they completely bought into it. They didn't look at the woman's the fact that the woman has been beaten by other women, in other boxing competitions. They immediately went on this political crusade about the boxer, coming up with all these stupid conspiracy theories that, oh well, when she was training, she didn't wear a hijab on her face. You know what I mean? Because she's from a Muslim country, right? She, um, you know, if she was a true woman, she would have to wear a hijab, right? Wrong, because Algeria, although a Muslim country, it's not a fundamentalist Muslim country. It's a regular country with regular Western laws. The laws are somewhat inspired by the Muslim religion, but most of it is just a normal country with regular, normal, secular laws with secular courts and religious courts. It's not Iran. It's not Saudi Arabia, right? So some women wear hijab and some don't. Just because you don't see a woman with a hijab on the street in Algeria doesn't mean she's not a woman. And think of it this way. By saying this, right? By saying this, you're actually putting this woman's life in danger. Whether or not you're actually, Lisa says, I say it was because the Italian boxer wanted to win for our country. Uh, that's why she brought up the thing about the other woman's gender. Yeah, probably. But you're actually putting Imam Khalif's life in danger. Because although Algeria is not a religious Muslim country, right, like Saudi Arabia or like Iran, it's a secular country. There is a lot of transphobia and a lot of homophobia in the Muslim world. So by proclaiming online irresponsibly, spreading misinformation that the woman is transgender, you're actually putting this woman's life in danger, right? Because somebody that doesn't know, like you, and that hasn't looked into the case, will assume that she is transgender and will probably try to go out and kill her, right? You know what I mean? And you know this. You know what I mean? So just like with the lies about the England, the thing in England that caused the riots for days and days. It has nothing to do with the Olympics, but there was a riot in England that was caused by misinformation that somebody supposedly stabbed, 3 little girls, and this caused a riot in England. But it turns out it was all a lie, just like with this transgender boxing thing. So my point in saying all that is that Trump and Vance, they immediately, and all the other conservatives immediately started talking about it and then made themselves look stupid when they found out later on that, hell, she's not trans. She has a condition. But they still put the woman's life in danger by proclaiming that she was trans. You know what I mean? Because they know that she's from a Muslim country, and they know that Muslim countries are more homophobic than Western countries. I mean, really. The poor girl and what she had to go through and what her family had to go through, because people, they don't even get all the facts, but they're at their computers like this, typing away that Kermit the Frog meme, typing furiously away, ready to post, ready to proclaim that the world is coming to an end because the Olympics let a transgender person box against a woman. Not having all the facts, just seeing that she was big and automatically assuming she trans. She was born a man, right? Completely putting her life in danger. They don't get all the facts and just spew nonsense because they can't wait to make a political statement with sports. What happened to us, the woke liberals. Remember, in 2019, y'all were saying you want politics out of sports. You don't want politics to be a part of sports. Remember when Colin Kaepernick was taking a knee at the football games? Take politics out of sports. Sports has nothing to do with politics. Remember, y'all were saying that. The conservatives were saying that. What happened to that? I guess things change, right? Now it's all political. Yeah, I mean, look, other women, Lisa, other women have beaten her. Other women have beaten her. So she is beatable. She doesn't have a perfect record. She has lost. You know what I mean? So she doesn't have a perfect record. There are women in the UFC, and Clarissa Shields, a boxer, has a more perfect record than she does. You know what I mean? Clarissa Shields, nobody says that Clarissa Shields, the ladies heavyweight champ, the ladies champion in boxing, undefeated, is a man. You know what I mean? Always born just trans. You know what I mean? But she's undefeated. This girl's not undefeated. You know what I mean? So some woman out there, and maybe multiple women, I don't know how many times she's lost. I don't know what her record looks like, but multiple women have had the ability to beat this woman, Iman Khalif, because she's not undefeated. You know what I mean? Again, sports is the great equalizer. If you're not undefeated, somebody was better than you. Okay, speaking of being better, we'll use that as a segue to finally go into the Olympics' newest sport, breaking, breakdancing. Much like Snoop, breakdancing was once upon a time maligned in the world and in the country, and particularly in New York City where it started. Breaking or b-boying, because in the early 70s it wasn't in the 70s, as attested to by Crazy Legs, Richard Cologne, Crazy Legs. It was used to be called b-boying back in the day, in the 70s when it started, and it was illegal in New York City. It was considered loitering in New York City. If you were caught doing it, back in those days, you were arrested. You know what I mean? So breakers, b-boys, were considered as, criminals. But here it is now in 2024. It is an Olympic sport. And before we get into the performances or the competition, like I said, just a brief history of it. It started, in the 70s, of course, around the same time that other elements of hip hop started, like 1971, 72. And initially it was a dance, that people would do at the middle of a song, which is the break of a song, like particularly to James Brown's records and other funk and soul type records, and eventually it developed into competitions, over time, especially in the 80s, because as we talked about before, there was in the late 60s and early 70s, New York City was infested with gangs. There were many gangs in New York City at the time. The Savage Nomads, the Black Spades, the Seven Immortals, other groups like this. And, thanks to the influence of hip hop groups like the Universal Zulu Nation, led by Africa Bambaataa, these gangs and the Rock Steady crew, which was led by Crazy Legs, these gangs then, instead of fighting each other and killing each other like they were in the late 60s and early 70s, they transitioned into breaking crews, and as they started to compete against each other via breakdancing, and developed into an art. over time. So this art, this breakdancing art, actually, despite what the authorities thought at the time in New York City, it actually decreased the crime and decreased the killings in the city. And then it was featured in like movies like Wild Style, movies like um, Crush Groove, early '80s hip hop movies that were about hip hop, and different styles developed, and it became a staple of hip hop culture. Unfortunately, as hip hop evolved, people forgot about it and people stopped doing it. And, it flourished in other countries and other communities, particularly in Asia. And as we saw, and that brings us to the Olympics. In Asia, people stood with it. And the Olympics, most of the good competitors were Asian. Big girl Yami she won for the women's um, competition. And I feel like it's going to be a rough road getting this sport accepted as a sport because, as Lisa can attest to, Lisa herself argued with a lot of people online whether about the validity of this sport, whether or not it is a sport. What I mean? People look down on it. People said it wasn't a sport. People said it requires no athletic ability. Now I don't know about you, but being able to do the spins that they do on their head and with their legs and everything, that to me requires a tremendous amount of athletic ability. I don't know with these couch potatoes we're talking about, I bet they wouldn't be able to do it. I bet they wouldn't be able to perform it. Some of them are fat, some of them are overweight. Let them try it if they think it's not that hard. But one of the things that everybody is talking about with regards to this, and congratulations to B-boy Victor, who from the United States that won. But a lot of people are talking about the female leg of the competition. um, and then it lacked a lot of authenticity. The woman from Australia did this performance that I don't know what this was, but this was not breakdancing. Now, like I said, I grew up in the post breakdancing era. I didn't really actually growing up as a kid. I missed the era, that was way before me. That when you would actually see breakdancers, performing on the street, because again, the cops cracked down on it. The cops considered all forms of hip hop disturbances of the peace, particularly breakdancing and graffiti because they were the first elements of hip hop. And not only that, there was no way they could market them, other than putting them in the Olympics now that they've done, right? So the cops quickly got rid of those two elements. Yeah, the lady from Australia, her name is Ray Gunn. Okay, Ray Gunn, really, first of all, breakdancing was big in the 80s, like we said. It came out in the late 70s, but really came about in the 80s. And I'm pretty sure Ronald Reagan was against breakdancing. So it's kind of ironic that somebody would use that name, as their stage name for breakdancing. You know, but that's just me. But anyway, Reagan, I don't know how you pronounce it, Reagan, I guess, right? She does this bunny hop thing. It's not breakdancing. It looks completely ridiculous. I don't know. And then she gets on her back and she starts cartwheeling her feet. Like, what? I mean, what the fuck was this? I mean, really, lady. I mean, I know it's a new sport, but they don't have drills. What I mean? They don't have Olympic tryouts where if you're not good enough to make it past that, you shouldn't even be there. You know what I'm saying? Again, I think they're making this shit up as they go along because they don't know necessarily what the rules are different. I mean, I'll be honest, watching it, I really didn't understand, and the commentators didn't do a real good job in explaining, well, how is this judged? It left a lot of people, including me. I don't know about Lisa, but me, it left me scratching my head trying to figure out what the hell this is. Like I never saw a breakdancing competition because again, breakdancing I came along later in the hip hop, evolution of hip hop as a genre. Yes, I know he commented. I'm getting to him. He felt Crazy Legs. This is a man who's been down with the culture since 1977, back when it was called b-boy. Lisa's gonna send me what he said, but I kind of already. I'm paraphrasing. I'm putting in my own words what he said, but I'll say it word for word when Lisa sends it to me. But I already kind of know what he said, and I'll tell you if I agree with it. And I do agree with it to a certain extent, but I'll tell you why I feel like comments like his hold the culture back. People like him, old heads, and they do this with other elements of hip hop too, like the music part, where they're against innovation. They're against basically what he said was, that it's too clean, it's too professional, it's not, dirty enough, grimy enough. Basically, again paraphrasing what he said. But I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, this is the Olympics. It is a street sport. It is the only sport to come out of a sport that was invented by people of color. This was not like other sports where even basketball, white people invented it and we then perfected it. It is something that came out of us. It came from lower income, lower economic communities, particularly African Americans at first, but then later, like other elements of hip hop, and we talked about this in the Kendrick Lamar video, Puerto Ricans being in close proximity to black people in the Bronx, latched onto it and became better at it in many ways than, African Americans. But okay, Lisa sent it to me in my messenger. He wrote, if the criteria allows for someone to make it that far and not be a full all-around dancer with an arsenal of vocabulary moves, they should not be there, no matter who they are or where they're from. The governing body should have a criteria that is going to maintain the essence of a culture and not turn this into a live at the Apollo for the United States to go in on her like that. You have a girl who is globally humiliated, and I'm joining in the party on that. But I can say that she should have the integrity to bow out, and whoever is in charge, whether it's World Dance Federation or the governing body in Australia, it's their fault. She doesn't select herself. She's a girl with a dream, and maybe that dream is a little too far-fetched compared to her capabilities, but it's not her fault. Somebody on our team and our country should have told her that this was out of her league. Absolutely. This part, I agree. This is not the part that I was referencing that I heard he said. Because, again, I participated. Shout out to Mongo Slade, the YouTube channel, The Magnificent Mongo Slade, for allowing me to participate in an online discussion regarding the breakdancing in the Olympics and, my thoughts on it and the whole thing. But our discussion that night, last night, was about a different comment that he made regarding the ungrittiness of the presentation there. And like I said, and like Mongo Slade said, I feel like in order for something to progress, it has to be cleaned up. Things, culture tend to start off on the bottom and work its way up. We saw with rap, it became corporatized, it became bastardized. Some people like it and some people don't like a corporate presentation. We saw it with other forms of art that we may love. But with this, the thing that Lisa sent me is something completely different, another topic altogether than Crazy Legs commented on. And absolutely, Crazy Legs is 100% right on this one because they should have screened it better. She should have not been up there. She was humiliated. Now, let's just say, hypothetically, this wasn't the Olympics, and this was back in the day in a breakdancing cipher, and she was up there. She would have been humiliated and roasted even worse, because that's what it is with hip hop. That's what it is with. I don't know about breakdancing, because again, wasn't involved with that. But I know about the rapping part. I was in rap battles. I used to rap battle, freestyle. And if you came up there and you sucked and your bars were ass and you didn't know what you were doing or you suddenly froze up, the crowd would eat you alive. But again, this is a professional setting. This is the Olympic sport. This is us showing that we belong. That it belongs there. That it has the same professional decorum that other sports are supposed to have. And if we get on there and we start acting like we do other forms of ciphering and other parts of hip hop like rapping or things like that, and we start, back in the day we used to start cutting ass on them, or like this is like on a street corner somewhere, we're going to appear ghetto to them. And they're not going to want to have anything to do with it. And that brings me to my next topic. Next year, they said they're not going to have it at the Olympics in Los Angeles. Now, I question the Olympic Committee because, 2028. When I said next year, I didn't mean the next calendar year. I meant, Lisa, sorry to clarify, the next year that they have the Olympics. Obviously, they don't have it every year. It's a 4-year, it's every 4 years. It's like an election. So the next time they do it, 2028, 4 years from now, they don't want to have it at the law. Now, I question the Olympics because if you're going to premiere breakdancing, do it in LA. Why do it in Paris? What connection does Paris have to breakdancing? LA has more of a connection to it because if we're going to use an analogy, let's use an analogy from Islam. If New York is the Mecca of hip hop, right? New York is the Mecca, much like Mecca is the Mecca of the Islamic religion. But Los Angeles is the Medina. Los Angeles is the second most important city in the history of hip hop. It's not the place where hip hop started, but it's the place where hip hop kind of grew up at. You know what I mean? It's like to have it in Paris and to not have it in Los Angeles is a travesty. If you're going to premiere it in Los Angeles, the second most important city in the history of hip hop. Out there, when it developed, they didn't call it b-boying or breaking. They called it boogaloo. That was the style in Los Angeles, or poppin', right? Was the style in Los Angeles. That developed in the hip hop scene there. That was big in the hip hop scene there before even gangster rap, became big. So you want Snoop Dogg there. You want to have the Olympics premiering this form of hip hop at the Olympics for the first time ever, and you choose to do these things in Paris rather than Los Angeles, you couldn't wait 4 more years to do it in Los Angeles first, and then you decide, wait a minute, we're not going to have it in Los Angeles, we're revoking it. So, I mean, Paris, why Paris? What importance does breaking have to Paris? Paris has nothing to do with breaking. Los Angeles has something to do with hip hop, has something to do with this form of dancing, this form of hip hop dance. It has something to do with Snoop. Why not wait and do what you did this year, the following year, at the Olympics, the next 4 years? Why wait? I mean, hello, it doesn't make any sense to me. And the fact that they're starting off this baby sport, remember, this is baby steps. When everybody on this planet was born, all the sports that exist now existed already, with the exception of MMA. But I'm talking about Olympic sports. MMA is not in the Olympics. But with the exception of Olympic sports, others, MMA, Olympic sports, other sports already existed. So we know the rules. We know how it's performed. It went through its growing stages, its introductory stages, because they've existed for hundreds of years now. But this is a new sport. This is something new. We don't know necessarily the rules, because when they were kids doing it in the Bronx in the 1970s, they didn't have rules. They didn't have criteria. So it didn't develop in that way. So what we're seeing is the birth of a new sport, something that is different, something that has never previously existed. You know what I mean? A new dynamic sport. So many people are like, well, how do you play it? You know what I mean? Like, how do you win? What are the criteria? What are the things you're judging on? But you got to give it a chance. It's going through its growing pain. Growing pain stages. Lisa says, just read that breakdancing wasn't to be included on the schedule for the 2028 games. The decision that was taken before the Summer Olympic Games had begun. But why include? Okay, Lisa, why include it here? What? You weren't going to do one in LA, a city where it matters, a city where it has history, but you're doing it in Paris. So why tease us? Why get us excited? That hip hop has finally made it to a grand stage with not only breakdancing but with Snoop hosting. And then why give it up? Why give it to us and then take it away? You know what I'm saying? It's like a guy proposing to a woman and then later on saying, I decided that I don't want to get married, canceling the wedding. Why do that? You know what I'm saying? You've just given us something new and new and dynamic that we can get excited about, that we can sink our teeth into, and you turn around and you take it away. What's there? If they okay, Lisa says they made it. Okay, maybe they'll change their reaction. Maybe they made this. Lisa says they made the decision before seeing how their fans were going to react. Yeah, Lisa, this is going to be an outrage. We have to engage in letter writing campaigns. We have to tweet them. We have to get in contact with the Olympic committee any way we can. And we have to protest that it be included in the 2028 games, because they did this with wrestling. There was a year that wrestling was taken out of the Olympics. was they were talking about not including wrestling anymore in the Olympics, right? I think it was like 2016 or like 2012. There was talk in the world about not including wrestling in the Olympics, and people protested. You were like, how can you have the Olympics without wrestling? Wrestling was one of the first sports to be in the Olympics in ancient Greece, right? When the Olympics was, a festival to honor the deity of Zeus, people engaged in letter writing campaigns and people protested. And they could do the same thing here. Give breaking a chance. Maybe you didn't understand it. Maybe you found it boring. Because I'll be honest, me watching it, I did. I didn't understand it. It left me confused and befuzzled. But I'm willing to give it another chance in the 2028 Olympics and moving forward, into the 30s. And eventually I will understand, and eventually I will learn to love it and grow to appreciate it. Right, and Lisa's saying also have a voting to see who can compete from the countries, so you don't end up like Australia. See, what happened was there's no criteria. So probably what they did in these countries was like, oh, you break dance, so they don't have to come up in the ranks necessarily because there is no ranks. And they were probably like, you break dance, oh, you break dance, come to Paris. And they didn't test any of these people out. They just went on their word that they break dance, and everybody's gonna who's not gonna want to be in the Olympics, right? So everybody, oh yeah, sure, I break dance, you know, and but there was no way to weed out the good from the bad. You know what I mean? They had no Olympic trials because there's no way to test it. It's a brand new sport. It might be an old art form that existed, for years. But again, when they were doing it in the parks, it was no grading system. It was no, heavy scrutiny. It was just like, okay, he did a fly move, she did a fly move, he or she did a flyer move, and he or she wins. It was burning. That's what they used to call it, burning. So that's what that was, back in the day. But you can't do the Olympics like that. You can't judge them on audience reaction, because if you could, then professional wrestling would be an Olympic sport, because that's what professional wrestling is judged. But you have to have a specific criteria to judge these performers on. Rap battling would be a sport if that were the case, because that's what rap battling is judged on. And you can't do it like that in the Olympics. Right. And I was going to get to that, Lisa. Thank you for bringing that up. And Lisa's saying also, with America, we had a big issue with the Black and Hispanic people representation, because there weren't hardly any Black or Hispanic faces to step up. Yes, that is true. We gave it up a long time ago. We don't do it anymore. We don't recognize it as a form of hip hop. Like I said in the Kendrick Lamar video, to my generation, and especially after my generation, to us, hip hop is music. And if it's not music, then it's not hip hop to us. I know in the Orthodox interpretation, 5 elements, graffiti, breakdancing, rapping, MCing, and knowledge, which is the unofficial 5th one, and some say the unofficial 6th one is fashion. But we don't consider it that. If you ask anybody, this is becoming my thing now, ask the common woman or the common man on the street, what is hip hop? Most of the time they'll say hip hop is rap music, right? Hip hop and rap music are synonymous with each other to most people. You know, that's not true because there's these other elements, but we don't consider those other elements. We don't consider breaking because nobody does it no more. We don't consider graffiti because nobody does that anymore. We don't consider DJing because, again, nobody does that anymore. They don't even use turntables. They use a Mac at parties where nobody scratches, nobody does any of that shit anymore. And knowledge, well, I don't know what kind of knowledge they're talking about. Maybe they're talking about like 5% of knowledge, ciphering, building. You know what I mean? But nobody does that anymore either. Those elements are obsolete. So when it comes to breakdancing, yes, the Hispanic and Black community that caters to hip hop don't do that no more. That is something that went international, like Lisa is saying, to Asia. Asians grafted onto it, and Asians perfected it, much like they do with a lot of other American things that they've been introduced to. There are things that Americans have forgotten about, and they kind of do it better than we do. You know what I'm saying? Even professional wrestling. I mean, Japanese wrestling is way better than American wrestling. We know this. Japanese animation is way better than American animation. So just like in those things, Japanese baseball, they're more crazy about baseball in Japan than we are in the United States, and we invented it. That's what happens. You know what I mean? But we can't come and complain now and say, oh, well, we want it back. You know what I mean? We want breakdancing back. We want to be able to lay claim to it. But you abandoned it. You said you didn't care about it no more. You said it was played out. You said it was corny. So you can't now, years later, come back and say that you want it back because you didn't care about it. It's like somebody that you broke up with, and you haven't been with them in 10 years, 20 years. And then now you see them succeeding and you see somebody else loving them. And now you say, well, what about me? But what about you? You didn't care about me. You threw me to the side. You threw me as a piece of garbage, a piece of trash, right? And now you want me back because you see me making it big. You see me going to Paris. You see me doing big things. And another component of it, I'll say, Lisa says Americans too busy on social media to worry about to learn breakdancing. Another component I'll say, and maybe some people will say I'm not qualified to speak on this, and I shouldn't criticize other people because I'm a person, and I've made it public here on YouTube that I struggle with weight. But I'll say this: Americans are a lot bigger, heavier than we were when breakdancing was popular. So this kind of sport, this kind of activity, it requires physical fitness. And because it's not a professional sport, it's not a big thing at the Olympics, you're not going to see Big Girl Yami or the other guy on a Wheaties box yet because it didn't blow up yet big. It's his first year here. People are not going to invest in learning it, and getting in shape for it. The best athletes are not going to gravitate towards it yet because it's not that lucrative. It can't be monetized that well. So what you're going to get is normal people, and normal people are not in shape for that necessarily because America is a lot heavier than we used to be when it was popular. And it is what it is, bro. We're a different country. As times change, the sports that we gravitate towards and the activities that we gravitate towards are different. You know what I mean? When we were a more rural country and we were a more laid back country, when people actually went to picnics and we were fit, baseball was popular. Now we're a fat country that is big and heavy and hawky, and football is the most popular. Same thing with breakdancing. I can't see your average American that is not a non-athlete breakdancing. It's just not going to happen because they're not in shape like that. And like Lisa is saying, they have other distractions. If you made tweeting a sport, yes, Americans will be the best at tweeting. You know what I mean? The number one at tweeting. But again, Asians are great imitators. What can I say? They take to a cultural aspect of something and they perfect it. They do this with technology. When we were over in Japan during World War II, we introduced them to a thing called a transistor radio that was invented by Americans. Later, after the war was over, they took the transistor radio and they made Walkmans out of them. They made CD players out of them. This is what they do. We invented social media. We invented video. Rest in peace to Susan Wojcicki. I don't know how you pronounce her name, but she, for the longest time, was a CEO here on YouTube. And she just passed away, losing her battle with cancer. But she, along with Javad Karim and Stephen Chen, a man of Asian descent, but Americans nonetheless, created this site here, YouTube, a video sharing site, a revolutionary concept, right? What do the Chinese do? They invent TikTok, and it's actually better in some ways than here on YouTube because it's freer. Freer in the sense that, you're allowed to say, more things, unless you're criticizing the Chinese government, then you're not allowed to say. We have a whole video, Lisa and I. Look it up. An American government trying to ban TikTok. So this is what Asian people do. The Asian people are great imitators, and this is what they've done with breakdancing. And their body type is more fit for this kind of thing. Sorry, the things that they're able to do in breakdancing were not things that the people who originated with. Now, is it true, like it is with hip hop, hip hop music, that black people invent something and they don't get the credit for it? Yes, it is true, but you can't blame the Japanese for that. You can't blame the Asian competitors or even the Asian American girl that competed for America, who, by the way, sucked. Right? You can't blame them for that. They're just doing their thing. They're just doing what they love to do. Whatever happened to imitation as the sincerest form of flattery? They didn't steal the culture from you. In fact, nobody stole the culture from you. You just got disinterested in it. It wasn't like, it's not like these Asian people. You can't compare this to Elvis, because that's the classic example. Right? People come with, oh, well, this is like Elvis. He stole rock and roll from black people, and black people never got the credit. No. The Japanese people are not claiming that they invented breakdancing. Obviously, we know the history with Wikipedia and all that. We know that black people invented breakdancing. Now, there are some people that say that that's not true, but those people, Dr. Cologne and people like that, those culture vultures, go after them. They're the ones saying that Puerto Ricans invented breakdancing and they didn't come in later and they started hip hop, Fat Joe and shit, 50-50 argument. Go argue with them. Don't go argue with the people, the breakers at the Olympics. They're not saying that. They're just doing their thing. They're trying to create a new dynamic sport. Okay, let's flip it. They recently did the judo competition. In the judo competition, most of the winners were on the French team, and most of them were Afro-French people, right? And judo was invented in Japan. So by your logic, should black people from France be allowed to compete in judo? No, by your logic, no, because the Japanese invented judo, right? According to what you're saying, that nobody, the people that didn't invent it can't participate in it, right? They can't be the face of it because even if they're better, again, we go back to the original argument that we were saying. See, I'm fair. I'll level the same thing at the people that are claiming that these Japanese and these Asian performers are culture vultures, that I level at the white people that are racist in the gymnastics criticism. Sports is the great equalizer. If you're good at it and you're able to do it, your race doesn't matter. You win, you win. You lose, you lose. Your race doesn't matter. Who invented it doesn't matter. Its cultural origins doesn't matter. You know, where it started from, it don't matter, because it's who's good at it, who wins. If you can't win and you can't compete, then you can't do it. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter who invented it. It's an irrelevant point. And I'll level that at both sides. You know, the people that are racist against the Asians, whether they come from my community, or the people that are racist against the black gymnast. I'd say it for both of them. If you're good, you're good. That's it. If you can win, you can win. Your color don't matter. That's sports. Sorry, that's just the way it is. You know, a sport could come from the moon, and if Americans perfected that sport from the moon, that's what it is. Americans are better at that moon sport. You know what I mean? There's no controlling that. There's no manipulation in that. That's not like the music business, you know, where, okay, well, he can manipulate, so this guy sells more than this guy. No, that's different, okay? So it's the same argument. The same argument consistent throughout this video is that politics and identity politics don't matter in sports. Somebody's good or they ain't good. That's it. That's all that matters. You win or you don't win, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whatever. You could take home the gold, you could take home the bronze, you could win or you could not win. That's what it is. That's sports. You don't like it, don't watch it, period. You can cry about it, you can bitch about it, you can moan about it, but it is what it is. That's sports. And if you want to be a crybaby about it, whether you're a black person crying about cultural appropriation of breakdancing, or you're a white person crying about somebody who wasn't good enough to win the medal from Romania, from the team that was better from women of color, it doesn't matter. It goes for both. You know, if you're crying about it and bitching about it, you've never been involved in sports, because in sports, and this is why you have to be a good sportsman and you shake hands after the competition is over, because the best man won, the best woman won, right? He was better than me or she was better than me on that day. You know, you win some, you lose some. That's the fun of sports. That's why sports were invented, to show people good manners. Because unlike war, and this is what's cool about the Olympics, countries get to compete against each other in harmless competition. Because unlike the other thing that countries compete against each other in, which is war, nobody wins. Nobody wins. Even if they win, they lose, because they end up mentally fucked up and hatred and animosity brews. So unlike that, sports is a good way, and this is why men are attracted to sports and men like sports. It's a good way to let out testosterone aggression in ways that are harmless, in consequences that are not real. Right? Sports are real, but what I'm saying is, like, nobody dies doing it. Nobody, hopefully people don't hold animosity. It's unpoliticized, and it should be that way. We compete against each other furiously. We go at each other hard. But if we win, we win. And if we lose, we lose. That's what it is. That's sports, and that's the beauty of it. um, okay, another thing I wanted to talk about, Noah Lyles, I guess was one of the track stars. Lisa, you can help me out with this one. I'm telling you, Lisa is the star of this video because she's really helping me. It's my opinions and my reactions, but I'm feeding off most of the information that she's giving me. Noah Lyles, a runner in the Olympics in the track, he had COVID, right? And he was allowed to compete. Now, who is allowing a man with COVID to compete at the Olympics? I mean, they don't do medical testing before the event happens. Why is this happening? I mean, I know with all the other things that have gone on since then, COVID is kind of in the periphery now. People don't necessarily care about it really all that much, like they did 4 years ago. But still, why is this happening? And apparently, the Jamaican team wasn't allowed to compete at the Olympics either. This is a tweet. I'm gonna read you guys word for word the tweet that this woman said, Mariah MD. She said the Olympics were just a mess. Had the swimmers in toxic water, Shelly Ann and Shakari not being let into warm-ups, Jamaicans not running, Noah Lyles spreading COVID everywhere, and now this mess. I know LA better not embarrass us like this in 2028. So, unless water is toxic, my mom and I watched this movie about sharks one time when that were in Paris waters, and the amount of litter, the amount of garbage that was dumped into these Paris rivers was just atrocious. So Paris apparently does have a huge. Lisa says he got a huge problem with pollution. Lisa says he got tested 2 days prior and they let him run. Shaking my head. Okay, a super spreader was allowed to be in the Olympics. Come on, Paris. Really? Do better. Because we in America, when we host the Olympics next year, we're not going to let this happen. We're going to test everybody thoroughly. And we're going to have breakdancing. Believe me, I believe, going back to breakdancing, I believe that people in the United States will write in, and don't be lazy about it, write into whoever you have to write into, your senators, whoever, and get breakdancing back on the agenda for 2028. Because, come on, it's hip-hop. This is Los Angeles, the second home of hip-hop, the second city as far as I'm concerned for hip-hop. It deserves to be there. Peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We went over an hour with this. Thank you, Lisa, for contributing. You were an immense help because I was just going to, it's good to have somebody to bounce off of. Sometimes it's just me by myself, doing videos, but Miss Lisa, she's allowed to help. It's good. And the whole theme of this is sports is the great equalizer. You're either good or you ain't good. But hopefully you don't have COVID, and hopefully you're not swimming in toxic waters. Come on, France, right? Get it together. Unless we're going to send Greta, if you don't, we're going to send Greta Thunberg out there to lecture you on the environment. Peace. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button. See you in my next videos.